Hello and welcome to the BVB update for October 10th. I'm Stefan Butzko, and in this format I cover Borussia Dortmund news and other shenanigans. And obviously today is the day ahead of tomorrow's Champions League game against FC Sevilla. And it is a very crucial one because, as you can see in the table, if Borussia Dortmund win and Copenhagen does not win at the same time, then Borussia Dortmund will be effectively qualified for the round of 16, and that means in the remaining 2 games of the Champions League group stage, Dortmund can rest and rotate as they like, because they will probably not pit Manchester City to first place anyway, and winning first place very often is not that important anymore in the Champions League either. So what I'm going to do now is read a lot of quotes from today's news conference with Terzic and Süle, and then I will give you my predicted starting lineup. And obviously we will start with the team news as always. And we will start with Gio Reyna, who, as you can see, has been on the training ground, but apparently also lost his endorsement with Manscaped. But obviously Terzic said about Gio that he could increase his load in training yesterday so that he would be an option for the squad tomorrow. The match against Bayern came just a bit too soon for Gio, but we are hopeful that he's going to be available tomorrow. And Terzic also said, quote, Mats Hummels had to come off at halftime against Bayern, but he felt much better yesterday already. We'll take another look tonight, but we have another training session in the evening, so we're optimistic that he's going to be fit enough to play tomorrow. Otherwise, we did not suffer any knocks in the Bayern game. At least the doc hasn't told me of anything yet. Might interject there real quick, because at the training there were no Jude Bellingham on the training ground and no Rafael Guerreiro, but Terzic also said that we will have Thomas Meunier back. He trained with the team yesterday, and Thomas Meunier, of course, was out because of a private matter against Bayern, so he did not miss due to an injury. And Gregor Kobel also expected to be back. Terzic said Gregor Kobel has been in training in the last 3 days. He's been out for 4 weeks and he didn't feel at 100%. He's our number 1, and as soon as he tells us that he's ready to go, he will be in goal. That's a conversation we will have today after the final team training. We had a similar talk on Friday after the final team training and made our decision then. Now we're hoping that he's going to get some rhythm back and can play tomorrow. And lastly, about Marco Reus, he said that he's got a cold that set him back a few days in his rehab. I'll have a conversation with him later, but I'm rather pessimistic that he can play tomorrow. We're more optimistic that he will be able to play on Sunday against Union Berlin. So at least there's something. And about the constellation in the group, Terzic said, quote, we put ourselves in a great position last Wednesday, but it's not going to be worth much if we don't manage to add to that tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that 6 points will not be enough to qualify for the knockout stages. We now have a massive opportunity to take the momentum from the last 2 games and show a good performance tomorrow. And as you might have heard, Sevilla have sacked Lopetegui pretty much after full-time whistle in the last Sevilla game with Dortmund, and now they have hired Jorge Sampaoli, an Argentinian coach, and they have had 1 game on the weekend, which was a 1-1 draw against Athletic Club Bilbao, and there Terzic said about the coaching change, quote, of course, a few things will change. They already had 1 match against Bilbao, which we watched very closely. We also got some intel on Sampaoli's coaching style at previous clubs. Sevilla showed a good performance against Bilbao. They switched the system 3 times within the 90 minutes. We have to prepare for various things, but the most important thing for us is to focus on our own strengths. In the last game, we showed principles that we want to see again and again in the future. We want to show things that we already showed in the last away leg, but also that we showed on Saturday against Bayern. If we can replicate the many things that we've done well, we will increase the likelihood to win tomorrow's game. And he was also asked, is it possible for Modest and Moukoko to start at the same time, which he answered in the affirmative, just said yes. And he was obviously also asked on Niklas Süle, who was sitting right next to him, and there he said, quote, Niklas and I had our first conversation in June when he was playing for Germany. We talked about a few things that will be important for Dortmund. Niklas told me everything I needed to know about him before the season. He gave a great interview about his reasons why he joined Dortmund. As a coach, I have the simple task of reminding him of what he said each day. Nicky sadly picked up an injury right at the start that sidelined him for 4 weeks. It took him a while to regain match fitness, but since But since he has been back, we could fully rely on him. I have to pay him a big compliment. When I approached him about playing on a less familiar position, he said, "Yes, coach, no problem. It's always great if you can rely on players 100%. And with Niklas, I could do that every time." And with that, I transitioned to the Niklas Süle part of the news conference because that was, quite frankly, the more interesting one. And first of all, he said, "We play Champions League at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Everyone is excited about the game. We want to reach the knockout round. And with the win tomorrow, we can reach a first milestone this season." And obviously he was asked about playing right back against Bayern, and he said there, quote, "I've already played on that position a few times before, so the routines weren't entirely new to me. It also helped that I knew my opponents really well from playing together with them beforehand. I believe that I showed the coach that I can be an alternative on that position for him. For a player, it's always good if you can play on several positions." And then he was asked how he sees his own role currently, given that he arrived with the ambition to be a leader in Dortmund's defense. And there he said, quote, "I did not have the easiest start. I sadly picked up an injury in the first game against 1860 Munich. I tried to rehab as well as possible so I could help the team as soon as possible. You gain fitness by playing many games. I believe that I've made a step forward now that I've played a lot of games. And then I try to contribute with the way I am to us playing successful football." And then a journalist asked him if Nico Schlotterbeck would ask him for advice often. And there he said, "If he were to ask me for advice, which hasn't happened often so far, I would, of course, talk to him openly to discuss certain situations. I believe that he's an extraordinary talent, an extraordinary player who already has a very healthy self-confidence, which is something you absolutely need at a big club. For Schlotti, it's new to play every 3 days and also to perform. For him, as with many other of our new players, it's not just about getting your body in shape for every match, but also being mentally ready. Although we have a lot of young players who aren't used to playing every 3 days on the highest level, I believe they are adjusting very well. Schlotterbeck has only been here for 3 months. He still has so much potential, so if he ever has a question, we have a very, very, very good relationship. I'm always open to that." And he was also asked about Edin Terzic and how it is to train under him, and he said, quote, "Having Edin Terzic as a coach is a new experience. I've never had a coach before that's so tethered to a team. Edin is a Dortmunder boy. We feel that every day. You can tell how much he loves working for his boyhood club. His team addresses are excellent ahead of the games. He really gets across how amazing it is to play for this awesome club. For me, this is really cool. I've been blessed with so many great coaches in my career, and every coach has his own style. We're lucky to have a coach that identifies so much with the club." And Terzic had a funny response to that, saying, "Nicky, of course you're playing tomorrow." After those words, "Of course I have no other choice." And Süle was also asked about Jude Bellingham and his progress at such a young age. And there he said, quote, "I've rarely seen a 19-year-old where you get the feeling that he already could have 3 kids at home. He's as mature as a family father. He's very far in his development. In every match, he's showing leadership, fighting for his team. I'm in a constant exchange with him. Sometimes I have to calm him down whenever he wants to force things a bit too much, but what he does is very impressive." And with that, I can come to my predicted lineup. I'm fairly certain that Terzic will stick to a 4-3-3 setup with 3 defensive or central midfielders, if you will. And I just have a hunch that Bellingham will be able to play, however Guerrero won't. So yeah, I have Wolf starting as a left back, and I think that Meunier will slot back in as right back, and yeah, Kobel also playing for the first time since his injury, and Hummels and Süle. I would just start in order to give Schlotterbeck a rest ahead of the match against Union Berlin, even though if you play on Tuesday and then on Sunday, I don't think you have to concern yourself too much with rests. And Emre Can, Özcan and Bellingham just do have a defensive solidity that not many other setups offer. You could arguably play Brandt or Reyna in the Özcan position or in the Bellingham position, but I don't think we'll see that from the start, especially not with Reyna. And yeah, you could also then play Moukoko next to Adeyemi, and I think Daniel Malen somehow needs to break his scoring duck. He has missed so many sitters in the recent weeks that I would not play him from the start. I would try to give him a go at more tired defenders. Sometimes that can unlock stuff for you as well. So in this case, I would start Adeyemi, especially because he was sort of the secret weapon against Bayern Munich. I don't think he was rested or anything. I think it was the game plan by Terzic to not have Adeyemi start and bring him on to basically roast Tyre Davis, but since Davis was off, he then completely destroyed and annihilated Stanisic. So there's that, and yeah, Moukoko I still think is having an awesome form right now, and he must play. But you know, I also wouldn't be too surprised if Modeste plays, just because Moukoko is still only 17, and playing him every match might also be a bit too much in terms of load management. Either way, I think there are a lot of options for Terzic to field the team, which is obviously a positive. And yeah, the main thing for this game is going to be that Dortmund keeps some solidity defensively, because in the first game against Sevilla, they didn't really do that too well. I think there were too many gaps in their defense, and Sevilla just couldn't capitalize, but that does not mean that they won't this time around. So yeah, please keep it tight at the back, and up front, I think there are a lot of weapons that really can hurt the yeah, unstable Sevilla. Let's call it how they are. In the first game, they really did not look good. They looked forlorn of confidence, if you will. And yeah, I feel like you can break them pretty easily, new coach or not. So I really hope that Dortmund kill this game off as soon as possible. Maybe not a strike in the 3rd or 6th minute, or however early that was by Guerrero this time. But yeah, either way, I think I'm going to predict a very entertaining match, and it's also going to be a very loud game, because I think the Dortmund fans right now are in a splendid mood after what happened on Saturday, and it's also going to be the maximum capacity crowd, I think, is what Sascha Fliege said at today's news conference. So that means it will be a record-breaking Champions League crowd in Dortmund. It will be 80,000 plus fans for the very first time in the Westfalenstadion in a Champions League game. And that is going to be something very special, and I really do hope that the team plays accordingly. And one last thing, listen to the Yellow Wall pod with Konstantin Eckner, Lars Paulmann, and yours truly. We recorded today, breaking down the Bayern game, and obviously also previewing the Sevilla match. So give it a go. And yeah, that concludes today's BVB update. As always, thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Until next time, goodbye.